Steve, everybody wants you to believe that Bigfoots are nice and cuddly, but you know what? Some of these things will rip you in half. And if you don't believe us, stick around and find out.
I really believe Portlock is evil.
My mom, she lived there as a child, said the last person out of there, he took a glass of his holy water, he drank it, got on a boat, said that's enough, I'm going.
Portlock was cursed and Bigfoot's place and nobody goes there.
Oh, Steve, I've missed you, man. I've missed you, son.
I know.
Welcome back on the show, brother.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, Sasquatch Steve Taylor is joining us tonight. He has actually been hard in the field up in Massachusetts chasing a magic eye, right? Y'all don't know the story where Steve actually lost his eye in a vicious Pukwudgie attack. That's what I'm telling everybody right now. But Steve, welcome back. How you been, brother?
Thank you, sir. I've been good. Yeah, I've been a little busy. Like you said, I was just up in Massachusetts. I did drive somewhat near Freetown, which is known for all their Pukwudgie attacks and sightings and everything like that. But I did not stop. I should have stopped, but I didn't.
Well,
maybe
Steve,
next time.
I got a surprise for you.
Tell me.
Afterwards, I'm going to send you this video. Someone sent me a video of a Pukwudgie shooting a missile out of his hand. It looks like a light bolt came out of his hands. I immediately thought of you. Anyways, enough of that crap,
Love
Steve.
that.
Nobody cares about your personal life, Steve. No one cares. I care.
I know.
Because I heart
No,
you,
you
dog. I heart you, dog. No, I don't really care. Anyways, welcome back, brother. Tonight, Steve, we got a good episode we're going to get into, man, is we're going to talk about the Curse of Portlock. Steve, what do you know about that place out there?
I heard a few things that kind of startled me. I was really surprised what I had learned about what Portlock. It's also known as Port Chatham.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it has the two different names, but yes.
I bought those receipts.
Okay, that's good.
So what we're going to do into everybody, welcome to EnigmaCast. I'm Joseph. That's my boy Steve over there. We're going to talk to you tonight about what's called the Curse of Portlock. And as you learned in our intro that you saw there, y'all think these Bigfoots are all protectors of the forest. And, but there's some of these are F around and find out, guys. And we're going to bring you the receipts. So before we do that, I'm going to give you a brief little rundown of what Portlock actually is. Now, Portlock, a.k.a. Port Chatham, is a small town, or I should say was a small town, 130 miles southwest of Anchorage on the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska, right? And Portlock was actually named after Captain Nathaniel Portlock, who was a member of the British Royal Navy, who anchored there in 1786. That's where it was first discovered, right? And the pictures of this place that you can go online and look at are very beautiful, very tranquil, very remote, and you will 100% die if you go there. Guaranteed.
I was going to say, remote is the key word there.
Remote.
That's it looks beautiful, but yeah, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
When I did this research, man, I actually in my head, because my mind works like this. I imagine me, you, a couple of the boys, Jay, rolling up on a boat loaded up with ARs, getting off, and immediately only one or two of us are making it out alive. I don't know why I just got that feeling. I said, but once you hear this story, you will understand. And before I go into this, I will tell you another fun fact about Alaska in general. Number one, I'll tell you two fun facts. Alaska has the most FBI missing person reported cases every single year. FBI goes out there, I want to say an average of, I'm not even making this number up, like 400 plus times a year, the FBI is investigating missing people in Alaska. Number two, it is also one of the highest reported places to see UFOs, USOs, just all kinds of fiduciary out there. Alaska reminds me of Australia, but in the snow. Everything will kill you in Alaska, right? Except maybe they don't know if they have any spiders out there. So anyways, let's get into this. So Port Chatham, we're going to call it Portlock, was a town 130 miles southwest of Anchorage in the Kenai Peninsula, very remote, right? Place was very beautiful. Large amounts of salmon, lots of wood, very remote, and also had a mine out there some type. I can't remember the name of the mine. It's a chromite mine. I don't even know what chromite is, but and what they did is the place was so nice that they decided to develop a town out there, right? And the only way to get there was by boat or by airplane. So they did. They created Port Chatham or Portlock, right? And a corporation moved in, set up a nice little salmon canning, facility there. They did fur trade there, Steve. They did. There was a mining operation there, and there was a logging operation there, right? So this place was, I'm giving you the historical background, and then we're going to get into the fiduciary. The fiduciary of this thing is insane, right? So the historical background is that this town was actually what they would refer to as a stabilized boom town. It was growing to the point where they're like, you know what? We don't see a reason why this wouldn't be a successful, expansion in Alaska. In fact, in 1921, it was so popular that they actually registered and received a post office. Now, if you don't know anything about how settlements work, getting a post office is a pretty big deal. And especially back in the day when emails and satellites weren't a thing, right? So getting a post office was a fairly big deal. That's how they thought this place was going to pan out, right? And they made a slight mistake. In 1927, they actually cut a road through the forest from Port Chatham to the nearest town called Seldovia, right? And once that road was completed, things started happening on the home front that quickly escalated to a very, very, very lethal combination, right? So, are you tracking with me now, Steve? You're done with
That's
that, right? We gave you the boring historical stuff. Yeah, they got a post office. Yeah, they made a road. Yeah, we get it. There's fish. Yeah, we get it, man. There's a lot of fish out there. Yeah, we get it. All right, know it all. So anyways, but that ain't the fun part. It's actually, I don't even know why I call it the fun part. This is the terrifying part I'm about to get into right now. Like, this is not a fun story at all. Matter of fact, put the kids away. Put the kids away, man. Like, yeah, put the kids away. We talk about this play. We talk on this show several times. We dig into a lot of stories. And the premises of our stories is one, something happened. Now, we can talk about what caused it or what didn't cause it, but we're about to bring you some serious receipts, right, Steve? Something happened. And the second thing we say on here all the time is ignore Native American legends and lore at your own risk. Right?
Yep.
And spoiler alert, Port Chatham ignored those risks, right? So, and they found out. So I need to find out how to say that in Cherokee. F around to find out in Cherokee. So everything was fine, Steve, and up until literally 1930. 3 years, basically, or 2.5 years after that road was cut and complete, right? It starts going off, right? It starts jumping off. So, and that's where it leads to now what they refer to as the Curse of Portlock. Curse of Portlock comes into play between the years of 1930 and 1940. This wasn't a one-off, Enigmites. This was a 10-year stretch of one heck of a movie that they could probably make if someone wanted to write a script on this, because it is actually a pretty good script, Steve. So, Steve, did I miss anything on the history?
Well, I don't want to give any spoilers away, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But I will say that one thing I did see, that even dating back long before the town was settled, the Native Americans in the area, they, how do I put this? They called it the cursed land. Yes. Right. Okay. They.
What's the problem? What's the problem here?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
The settlers moved in and they were like, whatever, this place is beautiful. But the natives, they believed that there were beings out in the woods.
Yes.
That were, well, again, I'm not gonna. I'll let you do the.
But you're absolutely right. So the land they believed was cursed, and they never settled there. They never did.
Right. Exactly.
That's why it was prestige. That's why it was untouched. That's why there was millions of salmon. That's why the trees were crazy thick. That's why those mines were there. Those mines are going to come into play too. I got a theory of what those mines are going to come into play as well. And so, anyways, now the lie they'll tell you, because that's what they do, is when they can't explain something, when something doesn't fit into the rationale of human beings, they will create a lie about it. And the lie they will tell you is that the fish ran dry. Really? Okay. Yeah. Oh, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
Trust
I
me.
saw that too. The fish ran dry and the fur trade diminished. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Uh-huh.
Nothing to see here. Just move along, right? But that's not happy, right? That's not how it happened at all. The real story is always stranger than fiction. The town, right in 1930, I actually brought the dates on here, started experiencing some very, very unusual, extremely violent occurrences now. So look, and we're going to get into it, right? So, but what I got to do is I got to tell you what it is. Now, the reasons why the natives of that area thought that land was cursed, and those three tribes were called the Denai, the Tlingit, and the Athabascans. I think I got that right, man. But like, Steve, did I get that close enough?
I think so, because that's what when I was looking, it was the same way. I read it and I was like, well, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but that sounds pretty close.
Not bad for a couple white boys. So anyways, look.
Yeah, not bad.
So anyways, they said that the area was protected, and that's important. Protected by something that they called the Kushtaka and or the Natinqa. Right now, Kushtaka is a hard word for me to pronounce. Is a Tinga?
Yeah, I would say.
How do you say it, Steve?
That one I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce, but the other one is actually Nantanuk.
Nantanuk, right? Nantanuk.
I feel that's easier to say anyway. So.
Nantanuk and Kushtaka. So
yeah,
Kushtaka is a Tlingit word, which means land otter man. That's the literal translation. Kushtaka is Tlingit for land otter man. The other one, Steve, is what?
Nantanuk.
Nantanuk is a Denai Athabascan word that means those who steal people. So, so if the Native Americans say don't go into the cursed land because those who steal people live there, and you still go, well, that's on you, bro.
That's on you.
That's on you, man. That's on you, right?
How much more of a warning?
Exactly right. Right. We don't live there. We don't live there. But don't go into the cursed land they're full of the people that steal you. The people. Those who steal people is the exact translation, right? It's very much Yoda-like in the Denai and Athabascan words, right? So, not only do they say it's a cursed land, all three tribes fear the land. It's very important. It's very important that you know that. They fear this land. They tell you not to go there. They don't go there. It's not just they say it's cursed. They avoid it. They won't go there, right? Period. They won't, right? And so this all leads back to the Kushtaka and then, hit it, Steve, the Nantanqa, whatever it is, man.
The Nantanuk.
The Nantanuk.
Nantanuk. Yeah.
And on this channel, and let me give you a brief description of what they describe it as. Basically a Bigfoot, right? And there's actually a word in science that I can't remember right now, but it's a scientific term. Things that live in colder climates tend to get bigger and stronger. I don't know what it is. So, any creatures that goes up, right? And I'll tell you that if you look at Bigfoots down here, they're always 8, 9, 10 feet. In Alaska, they're always 12, 13, 14 feet. It's just how it is. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, right, Steve?
Yeah. I mean, they adapt to the climate. That's really what it is.
They
bigger,
adapt,
stronger,
bigger,
warmer.
stronger. Yeah. Same thing, man. And actually, there is some human physiology of that as well, man, because the Vikings who grew up in Norway and Scandinavia, they weren't these monster men, but they were 6'1", 6 foot, 6'3" would be considered a big guy. But the Brits were like 5'6", 5'5". They thought they were, so like it wasn't like, we were, of course, when Steve and my family, our boys showed up in our longboats and the little Brits were up there, They thought they were giants. It wasn't. It's just they were just used to that snow and longer strides, and just evolution kicked in. Same thing with these, right? I've heard several stories about the Bigfoots in that area. This is the most violent Bigfoot encounter I've heard, minus the ones that I've heard about Indian tribes actually going to war with them, right? And these are very violent, right? So we've laid it out for you, Enigmites. We have a boomtown, mining company, fur trade, fishing, lumbering, cut a road through it, had a post office, 1930. Boom, it jumps off. So they describe this human, the land otter man. It's very important that's a very, I'm going to double back to that name as well, because we went on this channel several times talking about how there's different types of classifications of Bigfoots, right? This is a different one, and I'm going to tell you why it's different. They're described as being large, hairy, but with human-like features. Now that's important. Not monkey-like or ape-like features, but human-like features. When you look at the Patterson-Gilman film, it has a very ape-like, description about it. But if you look at the Seraphin Long abduction case on the west coast of Canada, she said that he was more of a wild man than he was a Bigfoot. These are somewhere in between. Very, very, very aggressive. Very aggressive, very territorial, and they have a very distinctive smell. This is important. They smell like fish with musty on it, right? And a musty smell leads me to believe that their final dwelling place is a dampish place, man. So that those mines come in, those mines, damp caves, man. Those mines come into play, right? So. But also, here's a very, very, very important fact that the locals, the natives there, will emphasize is they are extremely intelligent, highly intelligent beings, right? Very smart, right? And they're so aggressive that the Native Americans there would say that these creatures, the reason why no one wants to settle there and no one does there is that they'll raid your village. They will raid your village, kill your men, take your women and children. They're known for this, right? In fact, it is, those who steal people. Like, that's one of the reasons why. Also, too, of course, they're known to pick off lone hunters that are going through the woods as well. Now, if that hasn't made you, check your shoulder or rethink the Bigfoot phenomenon here, Steve and I are about to give you some receipts here on that might change your mind on that situation. All right, so.
And I just want to jump in and say that really quick, as you mentioned, once they built that road to the other town, things really kicked into place. But even before that, for 20 years before that, it was common for people to go missing.
Yes.
And of course, you're in Alaska, you're in a remote place. The terrain is rugged. There are bears, there's wolves. So yes, you can write off a lot of these missing people to that, right? But there were reports of sightings of these large, people weren't really quite sure, but these large, almost humanoid creatures. So they were happening before the road. Yeah, before it got there. But once the road hit, it really kicked up.
Yeah, the first documented case, very, very well documented, happened in 1917. Like 20 years, like Steve just said, 10 years, 20 years, 23 years before this actually even happened. Two hunters one was named, and again, feel free to fact check us, you guys. Get in the comments. Like I said, I don't fear pushback or facts, but this is what I'm telling you. I got the receipts. Two hunters, one named Ben Sweezy and the other one named Bill Weaver. Now, back then, when they went on hunting trips, it wasn't a weekend. They were gone for like 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month. These two hunters were well known, well respected in the area for reasons unknown. They were well aware of the mythos involved with this peninsula, and they went there anyway. And they went down there. They took their boat, they sailed in there, and these two were never ever seen again. The search party went out, and they found their boat. And there was no sign of them to be found, so they took the boat back, right? So Steve was right. The first reported incident of these otter people or, aggressive Bigfoots attacking was 1917. by white men. The natives knew about it for hundreds of years, and we just didn't listen to them. So now, another thing about these otter men or these Bigfoots that I found fascinating is that they have the natives say they can speak their language. Natives have communicated with them, right? So again, they say they're highly, highly intelligent. And they also establish what I would call territories by taking trees, flipping them upside down, roots up in the air, and driving them into the ground. And I have some pictures that I'm going to put into this podcast right here. That's going to show you that they are taking 10-foot, 11-foot, 12-foot, 1,000-pound trees, flipping them upside down so the roots are in the air and marking their territory.
I saw those pictures and I saw video too.
Yeah.
There was actual footage of these, so it's not like it's some sort of hoax.
Yeah, no.
I mean, these are large, fully grown, fallen trees.
Yeah.
Like you said, taken upside down, jammed into the ground, and the roots up in the air.
They're like 7 feet in the ground. Like they're driving them like 7 feet in the ground, right? It's insane.
This is not some sort of natural occurrence.
No, it's totally not. And it also too, the grass has grown around it. Like it's like it's been there for like a hot minute. And the natives will say, if you see that, that's no bueno, man. Don't be messing around up here, right? So I've never heard that in America, man. I've never heard that in America, bro. Like the lower 48 is what they would call it, man. I've never heard that in the lower 48, man. Have you?
No. That was something new for me, and it was pretty wild to actually see the video and the photos of it.
Yeah, like that's like, okay, now that's weird. You know what I'm saying? Like that's weird. And you know, I always take the angle, right? I was like, okay, you and me on our most boring day, we're not going to, hey, Steve, let's go take a 1,000-pound, 12-foot tree and flip it upside down for funsies. Yeah. That's not happening, right? So like, so something stuck it in, and they are straight up. They are straight up. They are 90 degrees on each side, man. It is clearly been, inverted, for lack of a better word, flipped upside down and jammed in the ground. And there are a lot of them. There are like a lot of them, right? So anyways, I thought that was odd, Steve. Steve, I found that odd, right? I found that odd, son. So now, here's where things start taking a drastic turn. Up until this point, there was no proof that Ben Sweezy or Bill Weaver were actually taken out by an aggressive beaver guy, right? Otter Man, I'm sorry, not a beaver guy. However, in January of 1931, things went to a complete different level.
I saw this too.
Yeah, there was a logger. His name was Andre Kamlu, right? Andre Kamlu was working not in the forest. He was working at the edge of the town where they would bring the felled logs in, and his job was to hook them up, drag them down, and do what he did. He was not exactly in the heart of the camp, but he wasn't in the forest. He was right there on the edge. He was murdered. He was killed. You know about this, Steve? Do you hear about this guy?
Oh yeah. Yes, I did.
And he was killed in such a violent way that something hit him in the head so hard, and this is YouTube, that brain matter flew 10 feet out of him, and I guess covered pieces of equipment, and then something still had enough rage in it to start breaking iron and steel equipment, just smashing it, right? And I'm going to pause right there for a second, because I don't know anything what the strongest animal that I could think of right now hitting somebody in the head would be taking a kick by a horse right to the back of to your face, right? Agree, Steve? Do you know anything right there?
That sounds about right.
But like, I don't know if that, like, I've never heard anybody taking a hoof to the face and then their brains coming out of the side of their head, right? Like
their heads splattering
exploding.
Blood and brains everywhere in a 10-foot radius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a wallop that he took.
Yeah,
on
he
his
took,
head.
that's a thing, and I definitely don't think and they could tell by the wound that he was not pummeled. It wasn't a man or something else, going at him. Something hit him so hard that it ripped his brain out of his head. Yeah. And then started breaking iron and other steel pieces of equipment that are in the area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's red flag number one for me, right? Because as we do, Steve, we like, Steve is the channel skeptic. Now I'll go along with just dang near anything, right? But Steve is the channel skeptic, right? Wasn't a bear. So also too, I can say that another thing I looked up is that Alaska has a scary population of grizzlies. In fact, they say that Alaska almost has enough grizzlies to be one grizzly per freaking mile in some areas, right? And I thought that was insane, right? Like, dang, man, that's crazy. So you would agree, Steve? Not a man, not a horse, not a grizzly, right?
Correct.
Because there were donkeys there. They had donkeys that they would pull the things. So I don't know if they had a horse there, but
yeah, and even like you said, a grizzly, that's a huge animal with real strength. But a grizzly is not smacking someone's head.
Yeah. Right.
Beating someone's head in. That's just not happening.
Yeah, and then they knew it wasn't. They knew it wasn't a gunshot, wasn't a rifle, wasn't anything like that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird, man. All right. So, anyways, but life must go on, right? Mm-hmm. So, however, here is something. Another reason that I would say, evidence number 2. The moment word got out that he died like that, every single native that lived in that town that had came down, they left on the spot. 1931 January, when this man died, the way he died, every native that was there left. They just left their houses, took their stuff, and they just bailed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the white men stayed. The white men, I think they were French, Russian, and American guys living there, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about how the natives generally stayed away from that area, but when the town was established, it was a lot of Russian settlers, Americans had come by, and yes, natives had moved in, just because they were so well versed in the wildlife there.
Yeah, so. And like I said, they were making money. This place was growing. Yeah. Like I said, they immediately left. They left. Mm-hmm. All of them did.
Yep, I saw that too.
I'm leaving too. If they're all leaving, and then I see, I'm leaving too. So again, but of course, some of them didn't leave. Some of them didn't leave.
Nope.
And that's wild, man. That's wild. And so then, that same year in the spring, I think it was April, 1931, a fisherman named Tom Larson. Now this guy was extremely well respected. In fact, and a Port Chapman, he was what we would call basically an elder or a senior person in the town or whatever. Tom Larson reported seeing one of these creatures. He was on a boat and he was like, "Thank God I wasn't any closer because he would have got me." The creature they acknowledged each other, right? He saw it. Now he described it exactly how the natives would describe it. Human-like features, massive, aggressive, territorial. He didn't describe the smell though, but probably wasn't close enough. But
covered in hair.
Covered in hair, exactly. Yeah, sure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well respected. Now, Steve. Now that's number 3 for me, right? That's number 3. That's my number 3. Like, okay, maybe it's time to move to Anchorage or something like that. I'm gonna pause that though, there real quick. Have you ever been to Alaska?
No.
You ever had a desire to go there?
Not about it. It's everything I've seen. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place up there, and I'd love to go. I love that kind of nature stuff like that. But I also know that it's very dangerous.
So dangerous.
Nantanuk aside, the bears and the wolves. Yeah. But so
serial killers, you name it, man. Like Alaska's not for the weak, bro. Like I said,
no, it's not.
And I'm a sun baby, man. I can't be up there 6 months of the year just pitch black. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, there's no shot. Anyway.
Yeah.
But you strike me as an Alaska guy, man. I would think that would be something you'd like to do.
I would like to visit one day, yes.
Well, anyways, all right. So again, 1931, right? In the fall of 1931. So we're talking about the September, October timeframe. A hunting party went out, right? And back then, again, how they would hunt, they would go out. It wouldn't be a one-day trip. These guys would go out a week, 2 weeks at a time. And also, when they would bag their game, they're bagging game for the winter. So they would try to kill, you know, it wouldn't be one deer, it'd be 3 deers, it'd be a moose, it'd be whatever, right? So they would go out in like groups of 4 or 5 men. It was safer that way as well, right?
Right.
So the hunting party comes across a moose. They're tracking a moose. They're like, okay, a moose is a massive creature. Mooses actually kill more people in Alaska than grizzly bears do. Fun fact, they're just as dangerous as a hippopotamus, but those videos are terrifying on YouTube. But they're tracking it, right? And it doesn't take them long to realize that something else is tracking this moose. And they come across, I'm quoting this now, they found tracks that looked like a human foot, but was 18 inches long, right? Barefoot, right? All right. So now that's red flag for me, number 4. Like, where's your boot? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something, there's toes out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And I read that too. I read that too about that same, you know, that 1931, and regarding those hunters that were chasing the moose. Soon after they noticed those other tracks, they did finally get to a spot where they found it was kind of matted down and everything like that, and there was blood and there was no more moose tracks. They saw the foot tracks, so whatever it was, it messed up that moose pretty bad.
Yeah. So yeah, Steve. Right. So again, call me crazy. Call me crazy. Me and the boys are out. We're tracking a moose. A moose is an easily 1,000-pound animal, at least, right, Steve? 1,000 pounds.
I would think so. They're huge.
Something with bare feet smoked it with a sharp stick and then carries it away. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. That's right. Yeah. Are we sticking around for this? No, right now we're not sticking around for this. But they didn't leave. So yeah, they encountered something that was strong enough to kill a moose without a gun. It could have had a spear. I don't know. Barefoot in this was the fall, mind you. And it carried the moose away, and they found where the moose died, and the blood was everywhere. Yeah, that's weird, man. That is weird. Yeah. And again, these guys would know if it was a grizzly bear. Now, I did see a video. I couldn't watch it all the way through one time, where a grizzly bear was killing a moose on the road. The moose had actually gotten hit, and the moose wasn't quite dead. And so let me tell you why grizzly bears and polar bears, black bears not so much, but I'm gonna tell you why getting attacked by a grizzly bear and a polar bear would be one of the most terrifying things you could possibly encounter. It's because they're omnivores. This is a little well-known secret for most people, but some people don't realize it. Grizzly bears don't know how to kill you. They will just start eating you. It's true. So like, also people get mauled by grizzly bears and they don't die because grizzly bears don't know how to kill you. A mountain lion will stab you, will spear you in the back and choke you out and drag you up a tree and then eat you. A polar bear, same thing. So grizzly bears eat deers alive all the time. It's terrible. Watch a grizzly bear kill a baby doe. It is the most horrifying thing you could ever see because there's no chill. They come in. It's like literally, like, you know, making that noise. Wolves will kill you first. Wolves won't eat you alive. They'll kill you and they'll attack you as a pack, right? So we know it wasn't a grizzly bear because the grizzly bear, number one, it's going to eat it right there. And like I said, it's probably on YouTube, and if you want to go watch that trash, but like, it was very sad. I mean, like I would have had to kill the moose. Yeah. I literally would. If I was in that car, the guy was in the car and he's in the truck and his wife was like, oh my God. He's like, oh my God. The moose is critically injured. He will eventually die, right? but he ain't dead yet. And this bear is
No.
this bear
He's
is
suffering.
yeah. I would have shot them. I would have killed the moose, man, and I wouldn't have killed the bear. I would have killed the moose. So we know it's not that, right? They're very messy eaters, man. They're very terrible, right?
Yeah.
They're also bad about not finishing their meat, right? They'll eat a half of something and they'll just wander off, and then they'll just go kill something else, right?
Yeah.
Wolves won't do that normally. They'll get it down to the bones, and the other critters will come in on it as well. But
And yeah, the moose was gone. There was no body.
it was gone. It took it. Right there. So it took it.
A wolf's not taking it. Bear's not taking
exactly, it. Exactly. Yeah, they took it. Right. And that right there, man. That is crazy to me, man. Like it just took it. Right. Like these guys had pack mules and sleds, and like they were like, this thing just smoked it and took it off. Right.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a red flag for me, right? So anyways, so that wraps up 1931. And I want to tell you that was the worst of it. No, it gets worse, bro. It gets worse, fam.
Yeah, it's not. Not somewhere you want to be settling down.
Yeah. So then 1932 rolls around. Now, what you've had is so in 1931, really all you had in 1931, you had one killing. You had one well-respected member of the community report seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a hunting party report seeing tracks and describing the moose incident.
Right.
In 1932, it went up a notch, right? So in the early part of 1932, it doesn't say that, in my mind, it's probably around spring. The miners from the mine, right? There were a group of them. In fact, I read several reports, and the reports range anywhere from 10 to 15 to 18. I couldn't get an exact number, but we can say that, because we have critics that like to hang on every word. Anywhere between 10 and 17 miners were walking back from the mine, right? That's how we put it.
A large group of miners. We'll just
large group of chromite miners were changing. It was a shift change is all it was, man. It was a shift change. They were coming back. They got murked. Something ambushed them in the forest. And this is where, for me, that it really got it got really freaky. Something killed all these guys, right? And then it took the time to send them downriver to the camp, right? And did you get that detail, Steve?
I didn't actually hear about this group with the miners.
Yeah.
But I did hear of another incident, yes, where a body came downriver. Yes.
So they got killed, and I don't know if all of them got recovered, but several of them were found in the river that flowed back. They showed up at camp, right? And the way that they describe them is that also, again, this is important that we don't omit this detail. They were not mauled by a bear. They were not eaten. Some of them had their necks broken in extremely savage ways, and they had like Wolverine-like lacerations on their body, where like literally something grabbed them and was like just ripping them and breaking their necks or whatever. And then it took the time to put them in the river and send them back downstream to this town where they knew that they would be recovered. And it did not eat them. And again, grizzly bears don't do that. Grizzly bears will maul you, and they won't. I mean, like most of the people. I don't know if are you familiar with the details of a grizzly bear attack? So a grizzly bear, a lot of people they pounce on you, and they'll try to gnaw at you, but they'll scratch your head. It's very bloody. They'll also break people end up with their arms and legs broken a lot by the grizzly bears.
Okay.
Right? But the grizzly bear doesn't kill them. It'll just maul them. I mean, people die from bleeding out. Don't get me wrong. Like it ain't fun, right?
Right.
So I don't recommend it, Steve.
No, I'll try to avoid that.
They tell you to roll up in a ball and just pray, man, and eventually it'll get tired of slapping you around or whatever, and then it'll just go off, right? These weren't these wounds. This wasn't a grizzly bear attack. So something broke their necks, right? Broke them. Like literally their necks were in like very distorted positions, right? Again, that's leading back to the supernatural like strength that they said this thing had, man, as well, right? So it also leads me to think there's more than one as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think? No?
Yeah, no, and it lines up with this account that I read where a group of hunters, I didn't say how many, maybe 4 or 5 hunters, they went out hunting, and 2 weeks later, after they had left, because like you said, there's hunting back in the day, it wasn't a weekend thing. You're supposed to be out for weeks, so people weren't thinking of it. But 2 weeks later, a body came downriver.
Yeah.
And the same way you described, it was beaten, it was slashed up, it had its neck broken, there was head trauma.
Yeah.
And then the other hunters were never found again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that's it just picked up pace year after year after year after year.
Yep.
And I don't know what made these people stay, bro. Like I got no idea, right?
Yep.
So it got to the point, right? It got to the point that the killings, so like 2 or 3 years after this, the mine just stops. They're not going there anymore, right? They leave, right? So the miners leave. The guys are getting killed. Now I'm going to give you a statistic here that's actually insane. Is that 130 people got murked from this camp over a 10-year period. That is insane to me. And now remember, in 1931 only one person died. You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So it's really like it's 129 over like a 9-year period.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where the killings were happening closer and closer and closer and closer to camp, to the point where at the last 2 years, 1938 and 1939, people that were going out to walk their dogs were getting killed. Did you see that right there?
I saw that, and people will go disappearing, maybe not killed, but people would disappear.
Yeah. Even
just going from their house to the local store.
Yeah. So they would never be found again, right? And again, This isn't a major city. There's one road. You know what I'm saying? There's one road in, there's one road out, right? And it's boat from here on it. So people were going. They didn't recover all these bodies, but let me take that back. 130 people over 10-year period were either killed or missing and never found. That's a fair statement to put on there, right? Mm-hmm. To the point that, Steve, tell them what happened to this town.
This town was abandoned.
Shut everyone down.
Finally, they said, we are out of here. That was it.
We are done.
Mm-hmm.
So much for Dookery went in this town over a 10-year period. The natives are smart enough to leave on day one.
They left right away. Yeah.
That they shut this town down. They abandoned it. And till this day, it's still not operational. The forest retook the road. And it's a fun fact here that I wrote down, that it was, I'm looking for it in my notes here, that the last building standing.
Yep, I saw this too.
Was the post office.
The post office,
The post office. The U.S. Postal Service guy was like, we ain't going out. We got a mission to do here.
He's the only guy in the town. He's sitting there in the post office by himself waiting for mail to come in. But yeah, I saw that too.
He was the last one. Yeah.
The structures to this day are still standing.
Yeah, the structures are there, man. Yeah, so there's the structures still there. The post office was the last guy standing. Dang it, I thought I put down the date when they actually closed the doors on that post office.
49, I believe.
49, yeah. So like 9 years, like he stuck around. Everybody else left. 1949, they finally closed the doors on the post office. That post office was manned 9 years after the town was completely abandoned, right? Completely abandoned, right?
Yeah.
Man, that's dedication to duty right there, Steve.
Yeah, seriously.
That ain't me.
Nope.
Who's getting packages out here? That ain't me.
That's what I'm saying. He's the only one there. He's getting his own mail, I guess. That was it.
Yeah, man. This story is amazing. And I'm going to tell you two things right now, and then we're going to reverse engineer this, Steve, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this. The last reported incident was in 1968. Did you get this? Hear about this?
I did. But before we jump into that, there was one more encounter that I saw back.
Oh,
that was kind of like the final. So this was in early 1940, and it was really the last straw for these people. One of the more experienced and well-known hunters that was still around there, he went out to hunt and never returned. So they sent out a search party for him, and again, same thing. They found him. Eventually, they found his body. He was badly beaten and mutilated, and his head was actually torn off. It wasn't even bashed. His head was gone.
Oh my God.
And so that was the final people in the town were like, yeah, we've had enough. We're out of here.
They got Big Dave. They got Duke. They took Duke's head, man. So we're leaving, right? So they took Duke's head, man.
Yep.
Except the post office guy's like, no, I'm not. I'm manning my post here. The post office guy left.
Yep. But yeah, that was the last reported attack before they left.
So that's insane to me, man. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like that I don't have that in me, dude. Like I don't want it. I don't want it that bad. You know what I mean? Like no, I keep it. Like I don't want it. They did try one other time to repopulate the area. So before that, in 1968, a goat tracker went into that area that was tracking goats from the local town, the north of, I can't remember the name of the town that was the north of it that he was at. He went in there and got chased out. He survived. He got chased out. But they tried to go back in there, and literally in 1990, they sent 31 people down there to try to reestablish the community. They all left that same year. They left. They just, no, we're done. They left. So it doesn't really go into any detail on what went down, but my guess was that more of the same, and that they wanted to get out of there. So now.
Yep.
All right, Steve, before we unpack this, do you got anything you want to add to this, to the facts of the case?
Well, I do have something interesting else to talk about, but it's not necessarily Portlock.
Okay.
It's actually another area in Alaska.
All right, save that.
I'll save it.
Save that, and we're gonna let's unpack this Portlock thing here, because you know what I'm about to ask you here. All right, so
let's hear it.
So first thing we can do is we can rule out, we can come in agreement, right? So Enigmites, we're going to come to this, how we do our investigation on it. Steve, something happened, right? Some weird things were happening, right?
Weird things,
and
not just a one-off. Not just if it's a one-off, it's like okay, but
weird
for
stuff
as much has happened there. Yeah,
over a 10-year period, man, some very strange stuff happened.
Yes.
Steve, was it wolves?
No,
not at all.
I don't think so.
Yeah, not at all, right? Steve, was it a grizzly? Was it a pack of angry grizzly bears?
Maybe some of those 130 disappearances, sure.
Right, yeah.
But
that's very, you see, that's why I keep you around, man. That is a great point. A percentage of those we cannot rule out might have been a wildlife attack. We're talking about, like, this is the outback. This is hard living Alaska, where, a toothache and a kidney stone will probably put you in the grave out there. You ain't nowhere near help, right?
Yeah.
So, we can't rule that out. But we can say that at least 98% of what was going on in this town was not caused by a pack of angry grizzly bears. Right, Steve?
Right. Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
Yep. And we can also go a little step further. These people, the ones that were recovered, they were not eaten. Right? They did not report being gnawed on or anything like that. Nothing ate them. Right? So these were kills. Right? Something killed them. Right?
They were attacked by something more than just your typical wildlife creature.
Right. And then we could say that whatever, based on the reports and describing the wounds and the moose thing, that this thing had above normal strength levels. Yeah.
That's a fair assessment.
So, right? Say, like, I don't know what, maybe he's into parkour, or I don't know, whatever this thing is, but like I said, this thing is strong. We'll say that it's strong, right? Definitely strong. Mm-hmm. So here's my next question, Steve. Again, could it be a man doing all this?
You would have to be a pretty strong,
like Andre the Giant levels.
Strong man.
Yeah. Right. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, do you think it was a man?
Again, maybe a small fraction of these cases. I can't rule that out. Yeah. But do I think that, a man having his head exploded, and the metal equipment being bent and destroyed. A man's not doing that.
Yeah. So again, man, when we start ruling out things that are, what possibly could be, whatever's left over, no matter how crazy it sounds, has to be considered as a possibility for what this is. And when you take into consideration the eyewitness account from the Native Americans and his name here, I'm looking at his name real quick, man, the fisherman, man, Tom Larson.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go with the Kushtaka, man, or the Natinqa or whatever. I got to go with that, man. I got to go with it, Steve.
And like
here it is, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this, I felt the gears grinding. Right, it's right here. It's right here in his mouth. It's stuck right there. He doesn't want to come out and say it, right? But it's like right there.
I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say that I'm not going to definitively say that it was these creatures, right?
Right.
But I'm not going to rule out the possibility that there is something
there,
not human, not normal animal out there.
Yeah,
it's possible. I can't rule it out
because
these are just some wild tales, And one thing I read too is, there's tales, there's legends, there's folk history, sure, but this was very well documented. One thing that I saw was that, even while it was happening and, as people were leaving, and even for many years after it was happening, there was a lot of documentation on this in newspapers and other media in the area. There was, I think what I have it down here, the large newspaper, the Anchorage Daily News,
right?
They were constantly interviewing former residents of Portlock and getting their accounts of what was happening. So again, this isn't just a tale that was just kind of been passed down. This was documented.
Yeah. And Steve, you know what else strikes me about this, man, is that what you just said, man, it was well documented. The longevity of it, like a 10-year period, right? And the stories, right? They're fascinating, but man, they are never bombastic. It's never like the demons, the tree demons. It was never. It was like, yo, this is what's happening. This is what it is, right? And a feature that they describe these things having that stands out are glowing red eyes, right?
I saw that too mentioned quite a few times.
But so yeah, man, like, and back then, like we've talked about several cases here before, man, that they were much more open back in the day to communicate these things and put them in the paper. Now you get laughed at and people don't believe anything. But back then, man, like they closed schools, Steve. We know they closed schools. They would bring in professional hunters and they would lock your doors. They would set curfews, right? And we did the we did the Pukwudgie, the Wampus cat hunt. They brought in 2 mountain men to try to track whatever that thing was down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And another thing too, man, that makes me believe in this very, very, a lot actually, is that these were hard people, man. Like these were hard men. You know what I mean? Like these were this didn't happen like this once and then like every 10. This was went on for years and they still stayed there.
Yeah.
That hunter that you named, he knew what was going on and he still went in those woods. These were hard people, bro. Not easily ran off. And it ran them off. Like it eventually got enough of them or the right ones and the people left. So for me, bro, I absolutely 100% believe these tales, man. And you know I was going with that, man.
Oh, of course.
So, but you're not going to say you believe it, but you're not going to rule it out, right? You're going to ride that fence, right? So, all right. Because that book back there, we talk about the book of Enoch and the Nephilim and how
I was waiting for you to bring it up. I was waiting.
You got something to add to it?
No, I don't think I've seen or been on an episode where it was not mentioned.
Yeah, and again, man, if you ask me where I think these Bigfoot creatures come from, that's where I follow where it was talking about how they were hybrid creators, man. And this is the most violent string of Bigfoot attacks that I've ever heard of. That's extremely well documented. Again, if you don't I said this in my live last night. I don't want us to be your last stop. You need to go out and read these yourself, and then read these stories, and then come back and tell us what you've learned, and we'll do follow-ups for it. So I'm going to tell you what I think this thing is, Steve. And I'm going to tell you, man, the Otter Man is what makes this stand out. Somebody had sent me something, several weeks ago, man, saying, hey, man, can you please investigate the California Otter Man? And I was like, sure. It's on my list, man, but that list is it's a long list. Yeah. And when I heard that the Tlingit word for Kushtaka is land otter, man, it made me think like, yeah, man, that's just weird that somebody had 2 or 3 weeks ago said, hey, man, check out the Otter Man of California. And they're saying the land otter man. Now, otters are both land-based and water-based, right? And I actually think that this is some type of cryptid Bigfoot, man, that's comfortable in caves, in the woods, and in the water, man. I really think that, man, that this is something that this the creature is. And I'll tell you, I think the catalyst was that road and that mine. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your opinion on that, because up until they cut that road in, right in like 1927, they started building on that road, and that chromite mine started taking off. This, like you said, man, we referenced the case from 1915, but it wasn't nowhere near.
No, it was it was happening. Yeah. Sure, people were disappearing.
Yeah.
But not at the rate as it was happening once that road was created.
Yes.
They disturbed the area.
Yeah.
They brought more traffic through.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more activity going on in the mines.
Yeah.
You're saying.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And so again, and this area was untouched. This was pristine. The natives wouldn't go there. They wouldn't go there. Like, this was the wild, right? Mm-hmm. And they showed up. And another thing too, the natives also described these as being protectors of the forest and the animals. The fur trade kicked off. They were killing these animals. They were skinning these animals. They were cutting down. They were cutting the trees down. They were banging the mines. I think as long as they would have stayed with the fish, they might have had a chance, man. But I think once they cut that road in, and again, we've talked about this before. You know, my number one theory is I actually have talked to some people that these Bigfoots are all cave dwellers, and we've talked about that as well, man. That the Appalachian is just littered with caves, and that I think that chromite mine was that pickaxe or whatever was going on there, or the dynamite. Who knows how it was mining, right? You woke them up, and I think it was more than one. I think it was quite a few of them that was out there and operating in that. Yeah. And yeah, man.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, saying that if they had just stuck to the fishing and the cannery, that probably would have kept things going a lot longer. Because think of it, at that point, you're focused just on the water. Right. Look at all your other options: hunting, mining, and logging. Yeah. You're going out in the woods. Yeah. You're going into their territory, and you're disrupting their territory. Yeah. If they had just stayed to themselves right in the water, that's a good point. They probably would have had a lot better chance of survival out there. Yeah, I would have think too, man. I would have think they would have had a better chance of survival, and I think that but again, man, they held out 10 years longer than me, because when the Tinglets left, I'm driving. Come on, jump in. I'm leaving with them. Forget it. I don't want it this bad, man. And that's why I want to do it. Now, before you tell me what you're about to tell me, man, I want to hear that. Fun question. Yeah. Would you go on an expedition here, heavily armed, to try to get proof of these things? I don't think so. Man, I'm not going out and disrupting them. Yeah.
You know what, man? Like, normally I'm a go guy, right? But I think in this situation, right? I'm thinking I'm not testing these waters, bro. I would tell you, man. The 130 disappearances are making me think like, hey, you know what? I'm not I'm no different than them guys that were living out there back. Now my technology would be different. I'd be out there with nods and infrareds and AR-15s, but like I'm thinking I don't want it that bad.
That might not help you.
Exactly.
That might not help you.
Yeah, exactly, man. I don't want it that bad. I even thought to myself too, man. I said, you know what? What if I went out there? What if we went out there, man, on like a boat, like not just like not like a luxury boat, like a little small military grade tugboat, 12 man boat, right? And that was our base of operations. And then it got me thinking, like, no, these things would probably climb out of the water. I think they're aquatic. I think the otters would just, man. So now let's just don't go there, bro. Let's
yeah, because it's true. This is really the first time I'm hearing of such aggressive Bigfoot stories.
Yeah.
You always hear about Bigfoot and he's just, people spot him.
Yeah.
Off in the distance in the woods and he's minding a little business, walking through the woods and I've never heard before this. I've never heard of a Bigfoot attack.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one thing to go hunting for Bigfoots, out here and on the, the lower 48, as you were saying, because they seem docile. They seem to not want to be found. That's it.
They might chuck a rock at you, right? Like you get a little close.
Exactly. Like get away. But these will mess you up.
Yeah, these will have you. Yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing, man. I'm thinking like, that's what gives me a pause, man. Like, oh, you can get it. No, I don't want it. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I would like, look, the Bigfoots here will at least tell me to give me a chance to leave. These guys, they're not, right? So yeah.
No.
So yeah, bro. I think that scratch that off the to-do list that we don't need to go to Port Chutlam, man, and Portlock or
Portlock.
Yeah. I believe you. So
yeah.
All right. So tell me your thing there, Steve.
Yeah. So as I was researching this, the whole Portlock everything. Another thing that I found out was, did you hear about the area called Thomas Bay? That's another area. It's another coastal area in Alaska. Portlock is southwest coast. Thomas Bay is southeast coast, closer to almost closer to where the Canadian border is and everything like that.
Okay.
But down that way. So again, we're talking about the same time period, early 1900s, is when things started kind of bustling over there. It's a pretty large area, also very remote. But Thomas Bay is also nicknamed Devil's Country at this point. Because there have been, dating over 100 years now, reports of what people have called the devil creatures, which that's what initially the first report, the guy said that they were devil creatures, but over time the report is they're also Bigfoot-like humanoids with thick matted hair. What was different about these though is they're actually short. They're supposed to be 4 to 5 feet tall, right? But otherwise, like Bigfoots. So the first report of this, let me pull up my note here, is there was a gold prospector, who had a little team outside of Thomas Bay. And this prospector, the only name that he had was Charlie. I don't know what the rest of his name was, but Charlie. So Charlie, he had his team, his camp set up in this one spot where their initial place was, and Charlie was going off by himself into Thomas Bay. He left with 3 months' supplies of food and whatever supplies else he needed for 3 months. And his plan was to be back by then. And he told his colleagues, he said, if I'm not back in these 3 months, send a search party, because that's my plan, is to be back by then. Time goes on. And after 2 months, Charlie returns. And Charlie returns in his boat because the Thomas Bay is a big, water area. So he comes back in his boat and he arrives with a huge chunk in the boat, which obviously his colleagues were very excited about. But they really quickly realized he returned with nothing else. No supplies, none of his tools, nothing. And he looked disheveled. He looked ragged. He went through something.
Yeah.
Right. So they unload this quartz and everything like that. And Charlie is like, get me the hell out of here. We're leaving. We are going home. And so he described that, he spent a lot of his time out there. It started off fine. peaceful area, very remote. But he noticed pretty quickly that he didn't see any other wildlife. He said he never reported seeing squirrels, birds, deer, nothing. It was quiet. There was nothing else going on. But he explored the area looking for gold, looking for these precious minerals. He stumbled upon this giant piece of quartz and he was able to recover it, get his boat. But soon after that, one day he was up on a ridge. He was near the water, near the coast. He was on a ridge, and he saw off in the distance coming towards him was what he called a group of devil creatures. And they were these Bigfoot-like creatures, again, the thick hair and everything, and he bolted. He said, I'm out of here. He started running, and they chased after him by his report. Chased after them, and what he says was they almost got him. He got in his boat, but they were still he got hit, he got scratched, he got cut up, but he got out of there. And he said he never looked back, and that was it. He got back, and he said, I'm out. And so that was the first reported story. But there, I saw a lot of others. There are reports, tons of reports of these devil creatures out there, and that's why you can look it up. And that area is nicknamed Devil's Country because of all these reports.
Man, bro, that is wild. That is wild, man.
Yep.
And again, man, my mind goes to why would he make that up? You know what I'm saying? Like back then, man. That's an amazing story, bro. Like a 3-month commitment. Like, hey, if I'm not back in 3 months, come looking for me. Like, and then you get out there and like week 2, you're hurting. I'm like, well, dang, only 2.5 more months, and somebody will come find me, right? So you had to be brave to do that, right? You had to be you had to be like kind of, built different. And that is wild, dude. Man.
Yeah. So I'm learning that Alaska is a pretty hostile.
Yeah, I didn't know that, man.
Hostile area.
Yeah, man. So. Yeah, man, that's weird. That's crazy. You know what else Alaska has a lot of too, bro? A ton of like alien abductions go on up there, man. Like I don't know if you've heard about that or not, right? So like, yeah, like there was a true story, a movie called the fourth kind or whatever. I'll send you the link, man. You can check it out or whatever. Where the ladies was reported, having trouble with aliens, and turns out they were speaking Sumerian. They recorded the aliens and they were speaking ancient Sumerian language. That was crazy, right? Yeah, like the Anunnaki tongue or whatever. I'm like, okay, that'll freak your mind out. Anyway, so all right, so I'm thinking Alaska more and more is really not my thing unless I'm going there with a team of like 12 of us and we're armed to the teeth when we go in there, right? And then definitely we're setting a watch, man. Somebody stop. We're not just going to sleep out here. Well, do you believe that guy's story?
I put it in the same. Well, yeah, I put it in the same idea. There's been enough reports where people have seen something, right?
Yeah, something like he saw something, right? Like he saw something, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, cool. That's a great story. Hey, would you ever want to experience anything like that?
I mean, yes, but only if I knew that I would get out of there
alive,
intact and good. Yes. Would I love to see something, crazy like that? Absolutely. Yeah. But I want to make sure that I can do it safely.
Yeah, from a distance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So maybe a drone, right? Some good drone, a drone thing. So yeah, man, like Scott from Mysterious Planet, he and I were talking once, and he was like, he would love to go to Skinwalker Ranch just one time. And I told him you could have my ticket because you couldn't drag me on Skinwalker. You couldn't drag me on Skinwalker Ranch, dude. No, you know what Skinwalker? You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Nah, no shot. You couldn't give me that. I'm serious. Like, you could not give me that property. If you showed up with the deed and said, "Here you go. Now F you." I don't want it. I'm not taking it, right? You can have it. I'm not signing it, right? No shot, man. Yeah, man. But like I said, but yeah, man. So there's like part of me that if I was in the wild, I think I'd be all right if I could like with a Bigfoot encounter. Dog man, no shot. This Otter Man people, no, I'm not even going. I'm not even going anywhere near you. You know what I'm saying? Like you can have that peninsula is yours. You can have. I give it to you. You can have it. Right? My permission, right? Yeah, but other than that, man, I'm thinking, nah, bro, it's not my thing. Anyways, All right, Steve. So this has been one of yours. Not completely shut it down. Like you're saying there's something there. So I'm giving it like an 80% chance that you're a believer there.
It's not a one-off, and there's been such documentation on it that I gotta at least say, okay, I'll entertain the idea of something being out there.
And would you go to Port Chatham for a week?
No. I think no, I wouldn't do that. But I do think that it would be cool to at least see the abandoned town. It would be cool to go there and
I would sail past
it.
I would sail past it. I would sail past it, but I'm not stopping. I'm not getting off. I don't want to disturb anything. Like I would like to see it.
I might go visit the post office.
Yeah, right. You know what? I might do that, man. Like if I would get out, go to shore, take a picture of the post office, get back in the boat, and we would immediately leave. We would just be like, hey man, let's go. Let's just keep going up the thing, man.
I'm not camping out for a month, but I would. I think it would be cool to go see it for sure.
Yeah, no shot. I ain't staying there I ain't spending the night. Not a month, not a week. Like I'm not staying the night, and we're not.
Nope.
We're not dropping anchor here either. Get this boat up the stream, dog. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, good episode, Steve. Good episode, man. I'm glad you're back, bro. I'm glad you're back.
Absolutely.
Field research is going well, I'm sure. So,
Oh, yeah.
All right, nerds. If you stuck around this long, you're our type of what, Steve? Hit them?
Loser.
You're our type of losers. Do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Serious question in the comments. Would you spend 1 week in Port Chatham or Portlock? Portlock or Port Chatham? Would you spend 1 week there? And there's a part of me that would want to say that I would pay for your trip there if you signed a waiver that I wasn't responsible and you had to wear a GoPro the whole time, right? Well, we sat comfortably on the East Coast while you were out there doing it. So anyways,
love it.
Leave comments. Let us know what you think about that. If you think it's real or not. Thinking I'm a believer. Steve's 80%, and that's actually good numbers coming from this guy over here.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve, what do I tell him? That's all you get for $1, nerds. Until next time, we're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.